Hey there, lovely people. Welcome back to my channel. This is a bit of a different setup than normal because it's going to be a bit of a different video than normal. I saw a TikTok, as you do, where this girl was so creative and she used a gumball machine to make her TBR more manageable, where she didn't have to make any decisions. And I have a comically long TBR list. I just keep adding books to it and I can only read so many. I think I have over 1,000 books on my TBR list at this moment. So I went ahead through my Goodreads account and I labeled them all as what kind of general genre they were in, fiction being the main one that we are addressing today. So I've got my folder of printouts of all of the book covers that I want to read. And there are, I believe, 883 that I have printed out at this time, which will absolutely not fit in my gumball machine right now. I spent over a month looking for a gumball machine that I wanted because the classic red gumball machines that you when you think of a gumball machine, this one, those don't take these capsules, and I didn't feel super comfortable about having super itty bitty teeny tiny book covers that my bad eyes wouldn't be able to tell for sure what the title of the book was. So I spent a long time looking for a secondhand gumball machine that was under $30 that would take these capsules, and those don't exist. They don't exist. So we went for a different vibe. I just wanted to bring you along on my journey of making these gumball books, TBR list, I guess, because I thought it was going to be a lot of fun and I wanted to share. I think I'm going to try and do a time lapse because I'm going to go through these several pages of book covers and get to cutting. Then I've got one single foam board. So I think what I'm going to have to do is prioritize, because obviously 800 not gonna fit in here. I think the amount of these capsules supposedly that I purchased was 200. I made a list on my Goodreads account of all of the books that I own. I'm gonna do those, and then I've got a list that I called Sammy's picks that are books that I'm feeling very drawn to on my list that were recommended to me, or the summary sounds really good, or they're a part of a series that I'm waiting for them to come out. And then I'm going to put those in here. I think I'm going to try and layer it. So the first few gumballs that are in here are going to be books that I own, and then books that I want to read, I know that I want to read, and then books that are coming out soon, towards the top. And I've got on my little book covers, I've got, when they're a series, I've got 1, 2, 3, whatever on the spine of it, so that I can cycle through what is going to take that capsule the next time that I put stuff in here. But we gotta make the books first.
Overall, the hardest part about making this Canva project was just the amount of time that it took and figuring out the rectangle size that you needed for both of the covers to make it for the correct shape to fit into the gumball container. But if you don't want to put it in gumballs, it's a very simple process and honestly kind of rewarding and methodic. I just took the covers off of Goodreads or Amazon, the image that they have, and pasted it into my Canva project and resized it, and then duplicated it, flipped it over, and put it to the other side. So no matter which way you pick up this book, the cover will be facing the correct way. I didn't really want to put in the effort for the back cover since nothing would be clear on that, but I have seen people do that and it does look pretty cool. They're just generally bigger than the ones that I'm making here. So to get us back to the point where we are in this video currently, we're just going to print off all of our many sheets of paper. And honestly, I'm kind of impressed with how well these turned out because this is my first time really printing off color images with this printer. And I did, in fact, use up all of the color cartridge in here. I have to replace it. And now, when it is long after the filming of this video, I still have yet to replace it. It was the original cartridge that came with the printer in the box, so it wasn't that full in the first place. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. We are printing them off. And after that, I'm just going to go through. I'm using a pencil to mark between them so that I can see the line that I need to use my length cutter, this thing. It's not quite as precise as I would want it to be because it's just like I got it on sale at an Office Depot maybe 6 years ago. So I don't use it super often, but if I can make sure that I could see where the line that I'm supposed to be cutting is through that little window in there, I am good. So I made sure that those were visible. I didn't really want to do that with my printer because I didn't want to waste any extra ink considering how much I used.
Just happy to be around. So I've got all these strips of book covers, and like that took me like a solid 45 minutes to get through all of these. So my original plan was to like cut them into little squares to start with and then separate them in an order or like piles. There's a lot of books here. Like conceptually, I knew that there were a lot of books here, but just like the strips, cutting 5 strips per each of those 18 pages, I feel a little overwhelmed.
Got my sleepy supervisor. I would just like to say he's in the same position right now as I record this voiceover. He is doing the exact same thing. I'm not. I'm no longer cutting paper, which is really refreshing and great because I cut a lot of paper through this process. And I was trying to figure out what the best system for cutting paper is. There's not one. There's so much cutting paper, at least not with the tools that I had on hand. It is very fun to like look back at this while I'm editing and be like, oh, I know what all those book covers are. Like I can see the little small details and I know what book that is. So like, let me know in the comments if you see any books that you're like, oh, I know what that book is. I would love to know because it's just so rewarding for me to look at. 2 things discovered. The location I had the table set up at was like very low. So I was sitting and I was cutting and I was like, little craft gremlin, which is not ideal for the old spine. Also, as I've been going through these, some of the like darker colored covers, like this one, I can't read that. I have no idea what that says. Like, I'm sure I could figure it out. I think it says The Last Daughter. This is what the cover actually looks like. It doesn't say what it actually is anymore. I'm probably gonna end up putting those into a separate pile to see if there's anything I can do to make them better. Because like I just got to this one here. And there's no way. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. So we're gonna have to go through those. I've also changed my system. I now have this pile, which are ones that I just cut off of the train. Like I cut out this little white piece in the middle of these, but not the one at the edge. Where when I started, I was cutting off all of the edges and making them nice and cleaned up. But that's so much slower. So I think I'm gonna batch these the same way that I did. Like I didn't cut all of these out individually as I was going. I cut out strips. So now I'm gonna cut out like the covers this way and then clean them up and move them into this tray. This is how much stack I've got left. I definitely don't think I've cut out 50 yet. All right, it is the next day. I have been doing a lot of cutting off camera. This is almost all of them. I have these 2 strips left right now. So, home stretch for this round, and then I will be cleaning up the edges, and we will continue to cut paper. So I'll admit, I said I had 2 strips left. There's one. Here I'm starting on the second one. You can see on the right side of the screen next to my water that there are in fact still other covers that have not been cut out yet. Those were less than perfect, and I genuinely was still under the impression that I was going to make these perfect tiny little books, like they were going to look like they belonged on a shelf. They don't end up looking like that, and I let go of that perfectionism after a little while. So those covers at the edge are gonna get cut out at some point, and they will be put into the piles, even though they are like a little bit of the edge of the cover on one of the sides is cut off because I went on a bit of an angle when I was using my like side cutter thing. So at this point, we've got one side of this is the ones that I have cleaned up, and then the other side are the ones that are in need of cleaning up, and they're all together.
Hi, it is yet again another day. This is a long project. I started on Saturday. Actually, I started on like Thursday last week by printing off the papers. But paper paper is cut. We have it. So I have a piece of paper. It's just blank, plain old copy paper. And I'm going to label it Sammy's Picks, which I have my laptop up right here with all of my Goodread lists that I made. So we're gonna do owned, then Sammy's Picks. Then I think anything that's like number 2, 3, 4, etc. will go into like a series pile. Maybe I'll have a subcategory of books that are not on the owned Sammy's Picks that are number 1. And then 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fill up because I can only fit 200 in here. Supposedly, I have 200 little capsules. I don't believe that, but supposedly I do. And if I do have 200 little capsules, then I can only put 200 in at a time. And if I can only put 200 in at a time, I've got 883 here to make. And I also want to prioritize the order of the book covers that I'm putting onto the foam board because I only have one piece of foam board right now. And I was a silly little bean and I went to Joann Fabric and I got all of the things that I needed to make this from Joann Fabrics. And then I found out you can get the exact same foam board I have at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. And I paid $7.67 for mine. And I lost the receipt. So I couldn't even like go and get the cheaper version. So I'm using that. And then if I need more, we're going to the Dollar Tree. I feel so silly. I definitely should have sorted these while I was cutting them, but I did not do that. So we're just working with what we got. And if I had to recommend this to anybody else, I would say do not have 883 of them to start. It's a bit excessive. It's a bit much. If you have more than can fit into your Gumball machine, separate them as you are cutting them. Or on the sheets in the order that you put them into the Canva project, separate them by the priority that you want to put them in because this is gonna be rough. And I think it's adorable, but also there's so many.
I do absolutely recommend that you do not have as many of these as I do. This system that I made probably, definitely 100% would have been easier to do had I been paying attention to what I had when I was cutting them and all of that. But overall, it would have been significantly easier if I just prioritized what books I know I want to read and just printed off those. There are a lot here. There are so many. And I'll be honest, I'm excited to have them. I love this idea, but there are so many. I really did not need this many book covers printed out. It was like so exciting to do the Canva project, but I didn't really think it through on how many of these tiny little pieces of paper I would touch.
As it turns out, I am not as good at remembering over 180 titles when I have 883 in front of me. So I pulled the ones that I could remember off of the books that I own. I think I got most of those correct that I made into miniature versions. Because I do have a lot of books that I own that are nonfiction that I did not make miniatures of. I think I would be so upset if I turned the Gumball machine and I got a nonfiction book. So I changed the system. I've now organized the pile of things that are not easily sorted into colors of the cover. And I don't know if you know this, but like a lot of book covers have several colors in them. So hopefully the system will be helpful and I won't be like, that's clearly a green cover. And then I go all the way through the green pile only to find out it's in the blue pile. I also had to add a section on my piece of paper for sorting that was titles that I can't read physically on the printed out version because I'm gonna need to work out like a labeling system for those. So if I can figure out what they are and then put like a little sticky note tab or something into the Gumball with them, I think that that'll be fine because I don't think I can do anything about it. I can't make them bigger because that's the size that'll fit into the Gumball machine. And I think it would be lame to just put in like the title. Onward and upward, we're getting to sorting into piles for first round, which is going to be separated into like layers, I guess, of what I want to put at the bottom and then work my way up so that I read certain books earlier in the system than I will others. So I will check back in when I've got my full piles sorted out.
I didn't actually record myself going through and separating the layers out for my first fill of my gumball machine, but this clip was just so pleasing to look at. This is me going through and doing second, third, and fourth fill piles based off of the colors of the covers, and I'm just basically doing it at random, trying to keep them pretty much even for how many are going into each of them. And it's going by color, so it's so fun.
It is many days from the last time I checked in, but I have all of my little books separated out into these envelopes. They're not. It's just a folded piece of paper with a label. This plus this are all of the ones that I plan to have done in the physical, like actual first round of putting things into my gumball machine. So we have hit foam time. And this is quite literally the only board that I have. I only have the one, and it is dimensions. It is 20 inches by 30 inches. And each of these, one way up, I think is 3/4 of an inch. And then the other way is 1/2 of an inch or a little bit less than that. So hopefully we'll get like a decent number of these, because technically you only need one side of that. And then the other edge is just gonna fold around and go and make a little book. We'll see how far I get. I have 883, but this one has self-adhesive to it somehow. Gonna have to figure that out. Oh, it's a sticker. I also have glue, so I will probably align some of these little books up on the front edge and then draw a line and start cutting. Maybe? That feels effective. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. You'll see what happens. I'm believing that this is going to be 1/2 inch on the short edge, and then of the book cover, not the short edge of the little thing. 1/2 inch by 0.8 inch. So I'm going to draw a line, I think at 1/2 inch, because then I can just fold it over.
I will save you guys the struggle of watching me do math on camera, because for some reason, if there is a camera on me while I am trying to do math, I lose the complete ability to do anything, including measure, because I just could not do that. And like through the process of editing, I've looked at this content a few times. I've looked at my math again. I absolutely have enough foam board from this one 20 by 30 inch foam board to make all of them into physical pieces. I'm not gonna need another one. I did the math. Sitting down without a camera on me, I can handle it. Each strip of the 0.5 should get me about 25 book covers made. So if I can do across 30 inches, every single 1/2 inch is gonna be 60 times 25, which is plenty. I will be fine. I was so worried about running out of foam board, but it's not gonna happen. I'm good. And this one is honestly better than the Dollar Tree one, because it had the sticker part of it is so helpful. Like, so helpful. I can't imagine also trying to glue on this part, this step right here, to have to glue as well. Feels like way more than it's worth. So it may have been more expensive than the Dollar Tree one, but it did save me a whole lot of time and a whole lot of Mod Podge on my hand.
I've got 3, 6, 9, 12. I've got 24. How did I fuck that up? I've got 23 from one side, which is not bad considering my margin for error. My math without a margin for error was supposed to be 25 for this direction. I think that's pretty good.
And silly little me was so worried about not having enough space to do all of this. I have so much space to do it. It's a very rewarding craft, all things considered, because not only do I get to have the tiny books to then use as like tiny physical trophies of having read the books that I'm reading, that I want to read, I just don't always know what to pick up next. This Gumball machine is not a requirement for me. I finished a book, now I have to go check out my Gumball machine. That's not how this works. If I have a book that I want to read, I'm gonna read that book, even if it's not the next thing to come out of my Gumball machine, even if it is already represented in my Gumball machine, but now I want to read it. The purpose that it serves is to help me make decisions when I feel like I don't have the capacity to make a decision, but I know I want to be reading something. And that is, in general, very, very often for me, that I want to be reading something, but I don't know what to do next. and nobody's gonna tell me what to choose but me and now my gumball machine.
Okay, I changed my system, and by I changed my system, I mean I changed my standards. I'm just gonna accept that they're not gonna be perfect because I don't have like a metal ruler or like a cutting mat or anything that would make it really easy for me to like go through. I think like a rotary cutter, I think that's what it's called. The like pizza cutters, but for crafts. I think one of those would make this really easy, but your girl ain't got one of those and she's not about to go to the store and buy one. I went to the store and I bought this X-Acto knife for this project. And if this X-Acto knife is not gonna work for this project, it's gonna have to. We lowered our standards. Now I've got all of these little sticks of foam board that I will continue on the train of making into book board foam. And then once they all dry, I'll probably cut them. I did not do very much of the foam board. It's still, now it's probably like a 20 by 20 square. I probably did about 10 inches of them. 10 inches? 10 inches? That feels like a lot. Maybe. About that. Wow. Cool. So I did about 9 inches off of that, but we'll see how long I stick this out today. We're not aiming for perfect. We're aiming for done. We're aiming for had a good time. Glad I did it.
I'll save you the trouble of watching me put all of these book covers onto these sticks of book covers, but there are a few and they are now organized.
I am either just shy or just over. Not entirely sure. I didn't count how many series books I have. 400 little books stuck to foam board. And I'm gonna cut them. I was gonna do all of them. I really was. I was planning to do all of them, but I got bored. And I have the first round's worth and the second round's worth because I can only fit 200 books into the Gumball machine at any given moment. So I think that's fine. And I think that if I were doing this again off camera, it would take me a lot less time because I wouldn't be like, oh, can you see what I'm doing? Is this gonna look good? How can I make this shorter? Because this is gonna be a really long video because it has been 2 weeks at this point. I think it's been 2 weeks. So I'm gonna take my little X-Acto knife and I'm gonna go in between every single one of these book covers. And then I am going to put them into gumballs. And then I will probably put the ones that I'm not putting into gumballs right now, because I have double the amount that can fit, into a little box. And once that little box is done, I'm going to show you the gumball machine. And then I can choose whatever books I actually want to read. Because I've been listening to audiobooks during this process, and I've just been choosing books that are available. And it's like, yeah, I've heard of this title before. It's not on my list. It's not one of the thousand plus books that I want to read.
If there is one thing that we have learned from this process, it is that perfectionism does not help us. And that is why you have me talking in this particular section, because I really wanted an ASMR moment for this clip, and I just did not get it because my air conditioner was on. This little pile right here is all of the books on my first round of fill that are not books that I own. I've got the books that I've owned to the side because I want those to go in first. They have not yet been cut, but that is the first round. Then I've got books that are sequels that are to books that are in here that I'm going to cut, and I'm going to put those separate. Those are going to go in a little box. So when the first book comes out of the Gumball machine, I can replace it immediately with the follow-up book. Or I can continue reading the series. I haven't really been doing that lately, is just reading the series straight through. So I'm giving myself the option to do either. And then I'm going to cut this second round of books and put those into a box. See you on the other side. We're officially in the home stretch of making these tiny books. I've got so many small little covers wrapped around a piece of foam board, and this is the second round that is just going off to the side. It's just going to be put away, and I was really wanting to get into this project, so I made all of the gumballs intact, and now I had to take them apart to then put them back together. I know it's dumb. I knew it was dumb when I did it, but I really wanted to just play with them, and I wanted to make sure that my gumball machine would work for this. So I put them together. I didn't need to do all 200. I did all 200, and now I'm putting them back together all over again, but this time with the books inside. It is equally as rewarding as it was before, if not more so. And like filling this gumball machine with gumball capsules that actually have things in them is so much more exciting than just having it sitting there with all of the empty little bubbles in it. I feel like I am doing something way more important and way more exciting than this actually is just by having this happen. And I almost got an ASMR moment for that, but there was some Baldur's Gate being played in my office at this time, so we had some details and some voices in there. One thing I will say is that this gumball machine is absolutely not designed to be opened regularly, so that's something I'll have to work around. But look at how pretty she is. Oh my goodness.
This has been a long time coming, but it's done. It is fully loaded, ready to go. I did a whole bunch of stuff to the actual gumball machine, so it's a free spin gumball machine now. I took out the requirement for a coin. I'm about to embarrass myself right now because I don't think it's gonna let a gumball come out on my first try, so we're gonna give it a whirl. We got one. And so the next book that I am to read is going to be This Bird Has Flown, which I won in a giveaway. So dope. That is all for this week. I am officially back onto the groove of reading books that are on my list. It took me too many tries to get this to work, but I think that I got it to work now. It'll keep working. I don't know. We'll see. I may just have to shake it every single time. That's fine. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. If you enjoyed this video and you want to hang out with me more, you can hit that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. I will see you guys sometime next week for either a writing video or a story study.